Going over some of your data here, a lot of good progress going on. So the first thing we always want to look at is what is that arm doing? How's that arm responding to stuff? You can see we're not getting, testing in on a regular day-to-day basis, but over that time frame, we're still seeing a trend upward, which is good. So that tells me we're ready to start getting into a little bit more advanced work, because the number one thing is we need to make sure we're gaining strength. If we're losing strength, obviously we're not ready to start learning how to adjust the ball in our hand and do a whole bunch of different things, because it's going to stress that arm in a different way. But since we've continually seen that trend going up in our arm strength, again, always want to be testing as consistently as possible. We know that we're going to be getting into some good opportunities to build that development. Now, again, you are a younger athlete, and that's where we're going to be focusing a lot on getting the fastball where it needs to be. So the one thing I want you to pay attention to is this right here. Again, I love pitch logic. We're using pitch logic to do this. It has you tagged as 3 different types of fastball. It has you as a cutter, it has you as a 4-seam, and it has you as a 2-seam. Now the reason for that is the same thing we discussed, that inconsistency in where the fingers are on the ball. Now the one thing I don't want us to really pay a whole bunch of attention to is curveball. We already kind of went over that. That's kind of more of a strength issue there on why that one came out so strange. But what we want to pay attention to, we're also not going to pay attention to the changeup. We want to really focus on what we're doing with our fastball. So as a younger athlete, what you want to do is be able to drive that thing in bigger movement categories. So right here, we talked about why some of those fastballs come out as cutters, and that's going to be where that finger placement is on the ball. So granted, you did throw that 54.1 miles an hour, which again for your age is getting into that 3rd standard deviation of velocity. And for the guys that don't know what I'm referencing, I'll put a link to what that research article is. But once we start getting into that 3rd standard deviation on velo for those younger athletes, we either have the next surgical case or the next MLB player. So you're kind of in that opportunity. We're gaining that strength, which is a good thing, but you're a hard thrower for age, which is why, in your rare instance, we're going to get you on the pitch logic ball to make sure you're throwing the ball appropriately, because that's going to help save mileage, wear and tear, just by throwing the ball right with the way we're gripping it. So for me, I'd like to start focusing more on that 4-seam. And again, we see the velocity on there is good. Again, in a bullpen setting, no adrenaline. We weren't asking you to throw the ball hard. I know we'll get a lot more velo out of there than that 54.1 max and kind of that 50.5-ish miles an hour average, but we don't want to focus on getting that high velo right now. And I know that sounds strange with everybody talking about, throw things as hard as you can. We want to teach you to be a pitcher from a young age to help you guys out. One of the things I've noticed, and my viewpoints changed on this quite a bit, is MLB players are actually made when they're in that, 12 and under range. What they're doing now, those habits, playing multiple sports, learning to throw the fastball correctly. I know that's going to be a controversial opinion, but that's fine. If that's the worst thing I say in my life, then so be it. But we want to really focus on how we're doing that fastball. We went over that new grip with you. Again, when you're in a game, just go out there, compete, attack the zone, do what you have to do. But when you're practicing, start focusing more on getting that ball cut in half of the middle finger, so we can backspin that ball, we can increase the spin efficiency, and we can start improving not just the RPMs, but also that average velocity, not as the main goal, but by being able to start driving that fastball more towards the ride and run category. So we'll go more over this next time we meet up, but ride and run is what you're looking for on a 4-seamer. More run is what you're looking for on a 2-seamer. And for a cutter, you're kind of looking for cut and ride. It's not really one based on the velocity. We want to just scratch that completely out. And in all reality, I'd like to scratch out the 2-seam just so we can focus on one thing at your age, right? Which is getting a good fastball. Because if we can set the foundation with that fastball, now it creates the opportunity to build in a more consistent curveball, to work on that good changeup, to start adding in maybe a slider that moves off that range there, or working on a split finger down in this category over here. But we can't do that until we can really master that one fastball. So I know that is a very different take than what everyone else is saying, where they want all the young kids learning 6 pitches at a time. I'm focusing more on you getting that one really good pitch to start off with, and then we can always build from that. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know. Again, all this stuff is great. You're in a very good 3rd standard deviation on that max velo. which again either means you're going to be the next surgical case or ideally the next big leaguer. But again, I'm not worried about the surgery because we're tracking you with your arm strength. We're seeing a gain. There's no red flags on there. And the number one indicator of injury, especially at those youth levels, is going to be, is your arm strong enough to handle what you're doing? And for you, yes. The answer is yes. You're recovering. We're not seeing any lack of recovery issues there. So that means we can start dialing in on your development to be a little more advanced with it, to where we're going to start putting a lot of focus on mastering a four-seam fastball. Let me know of any questions, because once we get that four-seam fastball mastered, now we can start even working more on that changeup. Which, on a side note, from where we started off with that changeup, your first couple were basically your four-seam, and we were able to get a huge separation off that by adjusting that grip just a little bit. I think we saw something like a 10-inch, maybe an 8-inch improvement on that changeup, getting more depth and arm side run to it. So again, we are starting that development aspect of that, but we want to focus almost 100% of our efforts onto that four-seam fastball. Let me know if that makes sense. Now looking into more of the full data. What I was just showing you before was kind of the averages. Now we're going to look into the full data of this. Pitch Logic does a great job of putting this stuff together. We're seeing, again, we're having those 3 different types of fastballs tagged. That's what we're going to focus on this, is we want to make sure we're getting that more into that one four-seam fastball is what we want to do. Just to get one good fastball, we can always add more on, but it's hard when we just have so much inconsistency. Now, the arm slot is not horrendously bad. We're seeing a little bit of variation, which is normal for your age range. But we'd like to see that kind of into that 1 to 115 range. I'll just kind of highlight that green for what it is we're looking at. And again, some of that is just going to be age-based. We're changing that arm slot a little bit. It's not a huge problem, but we're just going to keep tracking that to make sure it's moving in the right direction. The next thing, again, we already kind of went over that, and I was just showing you the averages. But what you're going to see here is your fastball basically varied on this movement the whole time, right? And the more we can get this trending in this direction on your four seam, the better off we're going to be. But that's how important it is to keep that consistent grip on the ball and keep working on that new grip, because we want the movement properties to keep driving forward to what we're looking at. Again, we're going to pay a lot of attention to that four-seamer today. We're seeing the spin direction on it was pretty consistent when we started making those adjustments. The arm slot, again, was not anything crazy that I'm worried about, but we want to just keep building more consistency in that. Again, you're young, it's not a big deal. But then all of a sudden we see that two-seam fastball. We had one of them get tagged there, and we saw that arm slot, the spin change drastically off what that four-seam is. And then we're going to scroll down just a little bit more in that cutter, and we're seeing that one there is even still a little bit lower. Now, I think your ideal position is going to be kind of in that 1 to 115 range, like I was saying, which seems to line up with that four-seamer. That's going to be the good one for us there. I think that's going to be your best bet, and that's what we're going to keep working on moving forward. Hopefully that's making sense. We're not even going to look at your off-speed stuff today, just purely focusing on that fastball, because, again, that four-seam, gaining that consistency in our fastball is going to be huge, not just for your progress, but for your consistency long term. So again, let me know of questions. Hopefully it makes sense.